Hi, welcome to the Legally Blind Geek YouTube channel. My name is Mike. Today we focus on Apple's accessibility settings that are found on all iPhones and iPads. Yes, anybody with low vision problems, whether they're legally blind, dark blind, or even those that, we're getting a little bit up there in years and maybe our visual acuity is not quite as crisp and as sharp as it used to be, and it's hard to read the small text that is most common on these devices. Well, with accessibility settings, we're going to go in, we're going to set the text size, we're going to even make it bold. We're going to look at how to set up and use VoiceOver. We're going to briefly look at Zoom, Magnifier, and some other accessibility settings that are available for free, no additional cost, that are hidden inside these little gems. So if that sounds like something you or someone you know would really enjoy and benefit taking full advantage of, stay tuned. Hello and welcome to my iPhone. I use the SX Max, 10S Max. When first setting up accessibility settings on an iPhone or iPad, you want to locate the settings icon on your home screen and open the settings. Okay, and the first thing we need to understand is when we go into Apple's accessibility settings and we turn VoiceOver on, the gestures on the iPhone will change. After we turn that on and the gestures have changed, merely touching the settings icon on the home page with one finger will select that. Settings. One new item. VoiceOver will announce the settings. A single finger double tap will open settings. And as you can notice on my screen, all of the text is larger and it is bold. We'll go into the accessibility settings and show you how I set this up. First, we're going to, with one finger from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, we're going to swipe and scroll down the menu, allowing VoiceOver to read each heading or each tab descriptor.
Do not disturb. Screen time. General. Button.
Now in older iPhones, your 6s and your 7s that are running the older operating systems, you would go into General and you would find the accessibility tabs. Now on my iPhone XS Max, or XS Max as it's officially known, I guess I should say, we scroll past General till we find the Accessibilities tab. There's a dedicated tab for accessibility settings.
Control Center, Display and Brightness, Home Screen, Accessibility, Button.
Once accessibility is announced, that is selected, a single finger double tap will open accessibility settings.
Accessibility features help you customize your iPhone for your individual needs.
And it reads, VoiceOver being it, reads, the little verbiage that's at the top of the page that describes what accessibility features are all about and what their settings will do. Now, to look at the making the text size larger and bolder, we'll just scroll down with one finger with that simple one finger swipe from left to right.
Vision, VoiceOver, Zoom, Magnifier, Display and Text Size, Button.
Display and text size, we're going to double tap on that.
Bold text, on.
And I have bold text turned on. Now, just so that you know, a little helpful hint, when you turn when you turn bold text on, you'll have to restart your iPhone in order for the bold text setting to take effect. Again, we're going to move down the list with a one finger swipe gesture from left to right, or you can just slide your finger down and each time you touch a heading, it will announce it.
Larger text. On.
I touched the larger text with one finger. It said it's on. If I double tap that, it'll open up.
Larger accessibility sizes. On.
And right here's where you turn larger accessibility sizes on and off simply by touching the little toggle and double tapping. You'll turn it on. Subsequently, you double tap it, it'll turn it back off.
Apps that support dynamic type will adjust to your preferred reading size below.
So to adjust the reading size, there's a little slider.
91%. Adjustable.
And I have it set at 91% because that works best for me. But I can take another gesture, one finger, slide from the top of the screen down.
82%, 73%, 64%, 55%.
And it will adjust the text size smaller. If I go from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen,
Weather. Settings. One new setting. 55%. Adjustable. 64%. 73%. 82%. 91%.
this is where and how you can adjust your text size from small to large. And
Larger accessibility sizes. On.
just make sure you turn that on.
Display and text size. Display and bold text. On.
And make sure that bold text is turned on if you wish to have the bold text on. There's some other things that you can do here if you want to.
Button shapes. Off.
You can play around with button shapes.
On/off labels. Off. Reduce transparency. On.
And you can reduce the transparency, and that will make things look a little bit sharper, a little clearer. You can play with that and see which one works best for you. And these all have to do with what the text looks like and how easy it is to see.
Improve contrast by reducing transparency and blurs on some backgrounds to increase legibility. Increase contrast. Off. Increase color contrast between app foreground and background colors.
That may be something that you want to play around with.
Differentiate without color. Off. Differentiate without color. Off. Replaces user interface items that rely solely on color to convey information with alternatives. Smart invert. Off.
Now, smart invert is just what it sounds like. What is dark will be light, and what is light will be dark.
Smart invert reverses the colors of the display, except for images, media, and some apps that use dark color styles.
And you also have
Classic invert. Off.
classic invert. And I have it turned off because I like the black screen with the white text. Now, we can turn that on and show you what it looks like the other way. You may prefer that.
Classic invert. On.
Now
Color filters can be used to differentiate colors by users who are colorblind and aid users who have difficulty reading text on the display.
And you can take a look at the screen and you can see now that the background is lighter colors, whites and grays for a contrast. And then the text is, darker colors. And you can set this up by
Color filters. Off.
going
Button.
into color filters, turn those on, and find one that best suits your color perception or your visual acuity.
Classic invert. Off.
We'll turn that off. I'm going to go
Color
ahead.
filters can be used to differentiate colors by users who are colorblind and aid users who have difficulty reading text on the display.
Now, one other thing I'm going to show you, I have shortcuts set up on mine, so when I am doing some of these things and I don't want to hear all of the voiceover being read in the background, I'll triple tap the button on the right top corner of my iPhone SX Max or XS Max. I'll get right here in a minute, and it's going to open up an accessibility shortcut pane at the bottom of the screen.
Alert. Accessibility shortcuts.
And from here I can turn VoiceOver on and off. I can turn the magnifier on and off, and we'll talk about the magnifier here in a bit. But turning VoiceOver off, then VoiceOver won't say anything, and basically I can just navigate the screen by looking at the larger, bolder text.
Classic invert. Off.
And triple tapping that goes back, it turns that page off, or it hides that page, and we go back to what we were doing. So I'm just going to scroll back up to the top of the page, 3 fingers swipe down,
Rows 3.
and a
Settings.
single finger swipe up to the
Accessibility.
bottom of the page
Back
will
button.
go back to my settings tab. So as you can see, there's lots of things that change when you turn VoiceOver on and you use the accessibility features. The important thing is just don't get too frustrated and just go back to what you know and navigate through whatever panes you need to go through. Or maybe I should have said pages. Panes may have a negative connotation.
Accessibility.
So with the
Display and text size.
display and
Button.
text size setup, we're going to head back to the top of this page. And again, we can swipe with one finger from the right side of the page to the left side of the page to scroll back up.
Magnifier.
And
On.
it will
Button.
read each heading as we pass it, or as it's selected.
Zoom. On. VoiceOver. On.
And
Button.
VoiceOver is what we're going to get into next. So with the VoiceOver tab selected, I'm going to double tap it with a single finger tap twice.
VoiceOver. On.
And it tells us that the VoiceOver is turned on. And when you turn it on, gestures do change. And we'll take a little look at that here real quick.
VoiceOver speaks items on the screen. Tap once to select an item. Double tap to activate the selected item.
Okay, and we have talked about that. You just select what's on the screen with one finger. You slide the finger around the screen until you find what you're looking for. Double tap and it will open that.
Learn more. Link.
And if you want to, you can tap on the Learn More tab.
Done. Button.
And it will tell you what all the gestures and stuff like that do. 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, and you can peruse that at your leisure and find what works for you and how you want to use it.
Done. Button. Accessibility. Back button. VoiceOver. VoiceOver practice. Button.
And there's a practice. You can go in there and you can practice with what VoiceOver does and what the gestures do and stuff like that.
Speaking rate. Heading.
Here is where you have another slider, and this slider is sole purpose is to adjust the speaking rate or the speed of the voice faster and slower. Again, it's just one finger touch to select it.
Speaking rate. 45%.
And then
Adjustable.
swiping from the bottom of the screen is how you adjust it to go faster.
55%. 65%. 75%.
And you get above 75%, it gets to speak so rapidly, it's almost comical.
85%. 95%. 100%.
Subsequently, swiping from the top of the screen down will lower the rate or slow it down.
90%. 80%. 70%. 60%.
60 to 70% is normally where I like to use it, but for the sake of this video, we're going to slow it down. It makes it easier to follow, makes it easier to understand.
50%. 40%.
40% should be slow enough that everyone can hear and understand. It might be a little bit too slow, but in the beginning, it's better to have it too slow so you can understand exactly what it's saying. And then as you get more comfortable with it, speed it up so that it's getting to the point without taking a while to get there.
Speech. Button.
Now the speech part of the tab, we're going to go ahead and double tap to open that up.
Voice. Samantha. Button.
And I have a female voice selected, Samantha. By selecting that
Voice. Samantha.
with
Button.
a single finger touch and then a double tap will open it.
Select English. Us. Heading.
And you can scroll down the list of voices that there are on here. You can download them, you can try them out, see what one works best for you, which one sounds the best for you. And the files are really pretty small. So it doesn't take long, via, Wi-Fi to download them. So be my guest, try them out, find the ones that work best for you. You might want to change them seasonally. You may want to change them just because your mood changes. That is all possible right here.
Speech. Speed. Voice. Samantha. But pitch. 40%. Adjustable.
Next slider we're going to look at is pitch. And basically it works like the other sliders do. You touch it with one finger, you swipe up.
50%, 60%, 70%, 80%.
And it makes the pitch higher.
70%, 60%, 50%.
Sliding from the top of the screen to the bottom makes it slower. This way you can speed it up, and well, not really speed it up, but sometimes you can increase or decrease the pitch, and it almost makes it seem like they're talking a little bit quicker or a little bit slower. It just depends on how well you understand different pitches, if that makes sense.
Use pitch change. On.
And I have pitch change turned on simply because it helps to add a little emotion to what it reads, and it will make a little better, or make it easier to understand what the punctuation is and how things are written.
Detect languages. On.
This I have turned on simply because I have different languages and associated different voices with those languages, because some languages sound better with a female voice or a certain voice than others do. And by that I mean it's easier for me to understand. You can go through this and you can turn this on, or if you never use any other languages, you can just leave it turned off. But just for instance, I'll scroll down here for you.
VoiceOver will switch voices when text in another language is detected. Rotor languages. English, US. English, Australia. French, France. Tom, German, Germany. Anna, in Spanish, Mexico. Juan, in Spanish, German, French, France. VoiceOver. Spanish, VoiceOver. Spanish, Mexico. Add new language. Button.
Let's kind of touching the screen there for just a minute, but right here, the bottom of this is where you would add a new language, and you can select a voice for that language to add to your list. And you can also install these or attach these to the rotor if that's something that you want to do. And we'll talk about the rotor in another video. It's a little bit long, or it would make this video a little bit too long if we get into all this stuff. But
VoiceOver. Voice. Speech. But speaking rate. Head. Rows 1 to 2 of 18.
With a 3-finger swipe down, I scrolled back up to the top of the page in VoiceOver. So that's basically all you need to know about getting in, turning VoiceOver on, selecting a language, slowing or speeding up the speaking rate, and increasing or decreasing the pitch of the voice.
Accessibility.
Backing
VoiceOver. On. Button.
Going back to the accessibility settings page. We're on VoiceOver. We take a single finger swipe from left to right. We go down to zoom.
Zoom. On. Button. Zoom. On.
And I have zoom turned on, and this is where the gestures come into play, learning how to use different gestures. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to let the VoiceOver voice read these descriptions.
Zoom magnifies the entire screen.
So I have it set so that the zoom will magnify the entire screen, and you move the zoom focus around the screen by taking 3 fingers, putting them on the screen, and moving those 3 fingers around the screen.
Double tap 3 fingers to zoom.
So to turn zoom on, I'm going to take 3 fingers and I'm going to double tap on the screen. And there it zooms in. To change the focus, I'm going to put 3 fingers on the screen and just move my fingers around the screen. From bottom to top, top to bottom, and then right to left is how you would navigate the screen. And this works perfectly well for some folks. This is how they'll read what's on the screen. And once you use it and get used to it, it's not too difficult to do. To keep your fingers out of the way of what you're trying to read sometimes might be. But also when you zoomed in,
drag 3 fingers to move around the screen.
You can tap one of these sentences or one of these blocks of text and it will read. VoiceOver will read. To turn it off, 3 finger double tap,
Speech off.
Oops, that was 3 fingers. So see, 3 tap, 3 fingers turns the speech off.
Speech on.
3 fingers, triple tap turns it back on. So it's important to realize just how the gestures do change and what they will do. And if you happen to do something and then you go, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, you just repeat the same gesture and it will back you out of that. It'll go back to where you were before. Hope that makes sense.
Double tap 3 fingers and drag to change zoom.
So, hope that makes sense. And that is basically all there is to zoom.
Follow focus. Off. Keyboard shortcuts. On. Zoom controller. Off. Zoom region. Full screen zoom. Button.
Now the zoom region is one of those where I'll just open that up for a minute.
Selected. Full screen zoom.
And I use the full screen zoom because that just makes more sense to me. There also is the zoom window.
Window zoom.
And the window zoom may work best for you. I'll show you how that works here just real quick.
Window zoom. Selected. Window zoom.
And now you just got this little square.
Rows 1 to 2. Select zoom. Zoom lens.
Where it just moves around inside that window. And that's all that it does. So
full screen selected.
I'm going to
full
turn it
screen
back to
zoom.
Full screen, and now with this, it just seems more comfortable for me. If you like that little window, then by all means, just turn on the window zoom.
Window zoom selected. Window zoom.
With window zoom checked, 3 finger double tap, and it brings the little box up. The 3 finger double tap again will make it disappear. So
full screen zoom selected. Full screen zoom.
That's 2 options that you have as far as zoom goes, as far as the windows and what it will zoom in on them.
Zoom. Zoom. Zoom region. Full screen zoom. Button.
So I'm back out of this.
Accessibility.
And we're
zoom.
back to the accessibility
button.
settings page. The next one I want to show you is Magnifier.
Magnifier. Magnifier. On.
And with the magnifier on, basically what it does is it turns your camera into kind of like a viewfinder. You can take your camera on your phone and you can zoom in, you can zoom out on things. And you can also like still frame, so that if you get into the higher magnifications, it gets a bit jittery you can go ahead and hold it as best you can over what you're trying to read. If it's a prescription bottle, or if it's a index card, or if it's something on the back of a spice bottle, you know, where these nutritional facts on food products sometimes can be really small. And if you zoom in enough to where you can see it, sometimes it's awful jittery. You can't hold it still enough so that you can read it. You hit the still frame and it will freeze it. You can read that frame and then you can move on to the next frame. You can scroll through different frames. I'm just going to go ahead and select this verbiage, this text box, and allow VoiceOver to read it to you.
Magnifier lets you use your device's camera to quickly magnify your surroundings. When enabled, you can drag Magnifier from the app library to your home screen or add it as an accessibility shortcut option.
Okay, the accessibility shortcut option, we kind of talked about that just a little bit, and it's set up so that on my XS Max, I triple tap the top right corner button on the perimeter of the phone. I guess it kind of replaced the home button on the previous generations. If you've got a 7 or an 8 or a 6 or one of the phones that has the home button in the lower center of the screen, that will function the same way. So I'm going to triple tap that button. 1, 2, 3.
Alert. Accessibility shortcuts.
And the accessibility shortcut pane presents itself at the bottom of the page. If I want to use the magnifier, I just tap on magnifier.
Magnifier.
Just select it, double tap it to open it.
Magnifier.
And there it is.
Viewfinder. Zoom. 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%.
So there's 70%, and that's just kind of looking at my keyboard. And if I want to freeze that frame,
freeze frame. Freeze frame.
And if I want to select another one and freeze the frame, I can freeze the frame.
Freeze frame. Contrast. 50%.
Change
button.
the contrast.
Filters.
You
No
can change
filter.
Filters.
Flashlight.
You can turn the flashlight on.
Button. Flashlight.
Turn the flashlight off.
100. Flashlight. View 4 freeze frames.
And if we want
button.
to view the 4 freeze frames, we just tap on that button.
View 4 freeze frame scrubber.
And
1 of
there's
4.
The 1.
Adjustable. 2 of 4.
There's the second one.
3 of 4.
There's the third one.
Freeze frame scrubber. Freeze frame. 4 of 4.
And that's how you can freeze those frames for different objects that you want to look at.
3 of 4.
And you can just swipe up and down on your screen to move from one to the other.
2 of 4. 1 of 4. 1 of 4.
You want to exit that?
Close. Button. View 4 freeze frames. Button.
And that's basically all there is to it. And I'll leave you to your own devices as to play with that and find out what you like and how you want to set it up.
App switcher. Magnifier. Active. Settings. Active. Settings. Accessibility. Back button.
So that was all just to illustrate how you can go back into your app switcher. And on my XS Max and newer, the 11s, the 12s, and I don't know, the new one that'll be coming out the end of this year, September, whenever it hits the market, it's going to be the 13. I don't think they're going to call it the 13 simply because too many people are superstitious about the number 13. But anyway, starting at the bottom of my phone, and I take a single finger and I swipe up. 1 tick, 2 ticks. It goes back to the home screen, and 3 ticks.
App switcher.
It goes
Settings.
to the app
Active.
switcher, so I can have
Actions
different
available.
apps open in the background. And I can go to the app switcher and I can just select which one I want to and double tap with a single finger, and it will go back to that.
Settings. Accessibility. Back
On
button.
the 7s, the 8s, and those with the home button, you just basically triple tap your home button to do the same thing.
Accessibility.
We've gone through VoiceOver.
VoiceOver. On.
We've gone through
Button.
Zoom.
Zoom. On.
We've
Button.
gone through
Magnifier.
Magnifier.
On. Button.
Now, if you have any questions or suggestions about any of this, please use the comment section provided below the description of this video. Ask your questions, leave a comment, or make a suggestion. It's all good. It's all welcome.
Display and text size. Button.
We covered display and text size. Again, if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. If you have any suggestions to make, please leave those suggestions in the comment section down below. If you get value out of this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you enjoy what you're watching, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, go ahead and it may be a good idea for you to go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification icon, and ring that bell, so to speak. Make sure you select all notifications. That way you'll get to be part of comments going back and forth from different videos. You'll also be made aware of when we drop a new video that explains something to do with overcoming low vision challenges.
Button. AirPods. Button.
I use AirPods. As a matter of fact, I'm using the AirPod Pros to do this screen recording with my VoiceOver. I'm using the mic on the AirPods Pro to record this audio. Let me know what you think it sounds like.
Hearing. Heading.
And then you can get into accessibility settings for hearing. But since we're focusing on low vision, I'll leave the hearing up to someone that has more experience with that than I do. But they're basically pretty simple to set up, but I have no experience doing it, so I can't really attest to how it works or how well it works.
Settings. Settings. Heading. Accessibility. Button.
So, backing out of accessibility settings, we go back to the settings tab or settings page that is full of all sorts of different tabs that you can go into and set up your iPhone or iPad to function better for you, a person with low vision, or a person that is like a sighted guide that's setting the phone up for a loved one or a friend and helping them navigate through this stuff to get it set up so that they're comfortable using it and they find a lot of benefit and take full advantage of all this kind of stuff. Myself personally, I've been using iOS devices, iPads and iPhones and stuff like that for the time of this recording, more than 15 years. Truth be known, it's probably over 20 years, but nobody wants to admit how old they are. So it's been fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't, make sure you hit that like button, or if you think it sucked, hit the dislike button. It's all good.